Hi everyone, welcome to JavaTechie. In this tutorial, you will get the basic skills and tips of debugging your code. Okay, alright. Before we understand how to debug the code, first we should know why do we need this debugging. Basically, debugging is the process of identifying and eliminating the cause of errors. This debugging mechanism completely focuses on finding the bugs. If any error occurs in your application or if any error occurs in your code, what is the particular line is causing that issue, you can easily identify if you are using this debugging mechanism. However, testing is completely different. Using testing mechanism, you can check the functionality of your feature which you developed, whether all the functionality is working as expected or not. If there is any bug on that particular feature which you are testing, that you can identify using this debugging mechanism. Okay, let me walk you through one example. So let's go to the IntelliJ idea. So to save our time, already I created one endpoint which is create new product. User will give the product request detail as a input. Then we'll save this particular object to the DB. Okay. From controller, we are invoking the service. This is the traditional flow. In the service, I have defined the create new product method. We'll take the input as a request detail. But if we'll check as part of the request detail, we have the field called name, description, product type, quantity, price, supplier name and supplier code. These are the 6 fields we have in our DTO. Now in the service method, create new product method, we are taking this DTO and we are converting it to the entity because we want to save the entity to the DB. Okay, so that is the reason I am using the value mapper, which is the static method I have defined here. It will take the DTO input and it will convert to the entity object, and then we are just saving it. But before saving the product object, I am just evaluating the location for that particular supplier. So I am getting the supplier code from the request DTO. Then based on this supplier code, I am getting the location object from location service. So if you'll go and check this method, I have defined the static data using map. So in map, I have something called key and value. Key is nothing the supplier code and value as the location object. So in this particular line, line number 35, whatever the supplier code user will give, it will give you that corresponding location object. Then at the end, simply I am just adding this location object as part of the response and I am returning it back. Nowhere I am not saving this location object. Only I am saving the product object. But while giving the response for this particular supplier, what is the corresponding location, I am giving as part of the response. Okay. So we are good. Now let's test this particular endpoint. Okay, so we'll test couple of scenario, then we will understand what is the difference between testing and debugging. So I need to access this create new product. So the URL is /products and I need to give the request body as a this DTO. So I'll go to my postman. Already I created the structure. Here we are giving name, price, description, product type, quantity, supplier name and supplier code. This input must be passed as part of the request. Okay. Otherwise, based on this code, we are fetching the location object. So this particular field is mandatory. Now let me hit the endpoint. Okay. Let me send the request. The status is failed. Exception occurred while create a new product. Okay, I will debug it. Why it's getting failed? That is the different thing. That is the part of debugging. Definitely, I will cover that. But before that, I just want to show you. I am just testing my API. So there is some exception occurs. This is scenario 1 and scenario 2. What I will do? I will just give a valid supplier code here. So I will just go to the location service and I will take one valid input. I will go to the postman. I am giving the supplier code now. Okay. Now let me send the request. So the request is success. And if you observe the response, we are getting the result. ID will be auto generated. Name, description, product type, then location object. Can you see here? As part of the response, we are just capturing the location. But did you observe here? We are getting the empty value as a supplier name. But as part of the request, we are giving supplier name value. But still we are not getting that value as part of the response. It means I am able to test my features. I hit the API, it is working as expected. but I found some bug. What is that bug? Bug is nothing you can consider as a issue. So what is the issue here? Even though I am giving the supplier code as supplier name as a input, one second, let me, yeah, even though we are giving this supplier name as a input, we are not getting that value. Okay, and if I am giving some supplier code some random value, I am getting the exception. These are two different scenario we tried, right? We tested two different scenario, and in both the scenario we find some bug. Now the next step to understand how we can resolve that, or how we can find out the root cause for this output. So there is only one way, where you need to debug your code to understand the flow of it and identify the root cause for any error or any issue occurred in your code. No worries, I will tell you how to debug your code. Also, I will tell you couple of shortcuts and tips to perform the effective debugging. Okay, so without any further delay, let's get started. So let's understand with basic debugging. So we tried this particular endpoint and we found two different scenario. In one case we are getting the supplier name as a empty, and in other case we found the exception message. Now to reach to this particular method to debug, you should know which method is exactly we are calling. If you don't know, no worries, just copy this endpoint URL, go to your IntelliJ code, then just do Command Shift F and search with the URL. It will redirect you to the URL mapping. Just go to that, okay, and then check the URL. Okay, this is what the URL we are trying. Which kind of method is this in the postman? This is type of post. Okay, so just go to the post method. This is what the post method, right? So it means from the postman, when I hit this particular endpoint, the exact call is going to the this particular method, and I want to know what's going wrong with this particular method, so that I am getting different type of output in different scenario. So the primary goal to debug this particular method. Now in this method, which exact line is causing the issue, I don't know. So how I can do that? I need to simply add a breakpoint. So breakpoint allow you to pause the program execution in place where you want to debug. Okay. In this particular method, I don't know which line exactly causing the issue. So I will add the breakpoint. How you will add the breakpoint? Just go to the line number and then just do a left click. Okay. You will find one red color icon. This is what something called breakpoint. So I don't know, I will add the breakpoint in each and every line of execution, so that wherever it will fail, I can easily identify. But before that, if you are a developer, you are smart enough to understand the flow of execution. So in this particular method, this is the controller method, and from the controller we are calling the service method, right? So I need to also check what's going wrong with this service as well, because the flow will begin from line number 33, then it will go to the 35, and inside the 35 line it will call this particular method, and it will execute all the line of code from this particular method. Begin from 30 to 47, it will execute everything. So also I just want to add a breakpoint here, because I don't know which line is causing the issue. It's not mandatory to keep the breakpoint in each and every line. You can remove, I mean, which line you are suspecting, you can add the breakpoint over there. Okay, but to show you the demo, I am adding in each and every line. So I added the breakpoint. I understand first this method is causing the issue, so I added the breakpoint because I don't know which line is causing the issue. So I added breakpoint in both controller and service method. Now to debug your application, make sure you should start your application in the debug mode. Okay, how you can start in the debug mode? It does not matter whether you are using IntelliJ or Eclipse, you will find a option to run your app as a debug mode. So just go to your main class. Okay, let me zoom this. In this main class, you can just click on this, and there you will find the option debug product service main. Okay, if you don't want to do it from here, you can simply click on this debug icon. Just click on it. It will run your code in the debug mode now. It will take few seconds. So let's wait it to complete. So it started on port 9191. Now we'll go to the postman and we'll hit the endpoint so that request will land this particular line number 33, from where I want to see the status, or from where I want to see the results of that line. Okay, so this is not allowing me here, it's fine. So I'll go to the postman since I added the breakpoint, and let me verify whether I mute it or not. No. So just go to the postman. Now what I will do, I will just give the valid one. First we will verify why we found two scenario, right? In one case supplier name is empty, and in second scenario we are finding the exception. So let me give one valid supplier code, and we'll see why this supplier name is getting empty as part of the response. So I'll go to the postman, not postman, I'll go to the location service. I will take one of the input. I will go to the postman again. I will give the supplier code. Okay. Now I will send the request. Can you see here? Request immediately came to my breakpoint where I added. If I add the breakpoint on 35, it will directly jump to the 35, not in 33. Okay. So wherever you are added the breakpoint, when you will run your code in the debug mode and you will hit your endpoint and you will trigger the request, it will land to that particular breakpoint. So here line number 33 does not have any logic. We are just printing the log statement. Okay. So I need to go to the next line of the code, which is 35, line number 35. So simply you can use the shortcut key as a F8. This particular F8 key allow you to take a step over. That means that you will go to the next line. So I will show you directly. Let me hit the F8 button. Okay, can you see here it came to the next line. Even though if you remove the breakpoint from here, if you press the F8, the request will move to the next line of your code. Now we reach to the this particular line. Next, if you observe, this is what the exact line which is connecting with the service method. But before that, if you want to check what input you are giving to the service method, you can validate that. If you observe carefully, let me zoom this. In the tab, to the bottom, you can see there are two segments. One is the frames, one is the variable. So is in this particular variable section, you can see all the input value. If you observe, we are having the object as a argument as a product request DTO. So that all the variable what is contains this particular DTO class, you can visualize here. What is that? We are giving name, description, product type, quantity, price. The value which we are giving from the postman or from the UI, when request will land to the controller class, you can also see what all value your object contains. From where you can verify that? In this variable section. Okay, and this frame section will tell about the flow of your execution. When from the controller the request will go to the service, then it will show you the service then controller. Okay, the flow of call stack can be checked in this frame section, and all the variable value can be checked in this variable section. If you don't want to check here, you can hover your mouse to that particular reference, object reference. See here, I'm getting the value here. Just expand it. You can also see all the value which we are sending as part of the method call. Okay, cool. Now from this controller we are calling the service, and in the service create new product method we already added the breakpoint, right? So when I'll do again F8, then request will come to line number 33 of my service class. Either you can press the F8 for step over. If you don't want to do that, go back to your controller. Then you can see this icon, right? Step over. The what I can say. The also it's showing the pop-up with the what functionality this particular icon will do. You can see here step over. Also it is showing F8 is the shortcut key for it. Just click on it. Now the request is landed to the line number 33. Okay, so let me minimize this. So here if you observe, we are just doing in line number 33 we are just doing value mapper convert DTO to entity class. Okay, so if you, but before this particular method execute, I want to verify what input value my this DTO class contains. Okay, how I can do that? Just hover your mouse to the variable and just expand it. These are the value we are giving. We are verifying here, we are giving the supplier name as was cloud. Okay, so this is what the value we are giving as part of the DTO. Either verify from the here or you can verify from the here as well. Okay, all the value we can see here. See here the supplier name we are giving was cloud. Okay, so I mean the request DTO contains the supplier name value. I want to check this value mapper dot convert to entity is giving me the supplier name back or not. Okay, because this is the method who will convert, who will take the DTO and convert to the entity class. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this particular method execution call, then simply I want to evaluate it. Okay, so to evaluate what result this particular line will give, you can simply go to this particular icon. You can see here the icon says evaluate expression and the shortcut key for it. Okay, so you can press option F8 to evaluate expression. If you are using window, alt F8 will help you to evaluate the expression. See, this evaluate expression is not something new. It is just execute this particular line of code. Okay, so since I copied it, just click on this evaluate expression. Okay, so product request DTO we are giving all the input. You can see your supplier name we are giving. Now after execute this particular method, what result we will get, will verify whether supplier code or supplier name is mentioned over there or not. Just evaluate it. Okay, id equal to 0 because object is not saved in the DB. Name is correct, description is correct, product type, quantity, price, supplier code is correct, but can you see here supplier name is empty. It means the scenario where we are getting the supplier name as empty as part of the response, this is the line who is the culprit. Okay, this particular line is the culprit. I mean there is some data manipulation is going on this particular method. That is the reason we are getting empty value as a response. How did we evaluate it? We simply copy this syntax and we evaluate the expression and we saw the result. Okay, we are not getting the supplier name in this particular line number 33 itself. Okay, so we are good here. We found the culprit who is causing the issue. But how I can debug this convert to entity method? Okay. In fact, this is my class. I have written, it is there in my project. So I can debug it. There is again two way you can debug it. From here, from the service, directly jump into this convert to entity method and debug it by using the F7 key. Okay, so there is another key. The way we are using F8 to move to the next line, you can use the F7 key to go inside the method. How you can do that? Just press F7. We are here directly in the method convert to entity. Okay, now you can go one by one. You can check each line, so you can use the step over. Okay, either use the F8 or just use this particular icon. So which is comfortable for you, just use that. I am handy with this particular icon. I can go one line by line. So if you go here, someone already hard coded the name as a empty string. That is the reason whatever the DTO value we are giving here, product request DTO, and if you observe the supplier name, whatever you are giving here, the empty string is overriding it because we are not passing that value, right? So we are getting the empty as a response. So you, as I said, there is two way you can jump into the method, either using the F7 to step into that particular method and debug it directly the way we did just now. If not, let me go from the frame. Okay, this is the simple approach. Just go to this method, just add a single breakpoint wherever you want to check the value. Okay, I added in this two. Now go to the product service, Earlier we tried F7 to directly jump into this particular method without adding any breakpoint. But now I added the breakpoint in this convert to entity method to check how the flow is going on. Both are the same. There are two ways. Use the F7 to directly jump into the method, or use the F8 to go line by line from the method. Okay. So this is the second approach. I am using the F8. Now again I am there in this convert to entity method. I will debug it line by line, and I check someone did the mistake in the supplier name. He hard coded the empty string. That is the reason we are getting this response, right? We are getting this. If you now check the product, again you can check from here, hover your mouse and expand it, verify it. If not, you have option to check in the variable section. Just make it zoom. You can see here. This is where we are getting the supplier name as a empty. So now how I can fix it? This is simple, right? Get the supplier name from the request DTO rather than hard code it. So just use product request DTO dot get supplier name. That's it, right? Now there is another question here. Hey, I did some code change just now. Do I need to restart my server to check these features, or whatever the changes I have done now to reflect that changes? Do I need to restart the server? I don't know about other ID, but if you are using the IntelliJ idea, there is something called hot reload. What is that? I will show you right away. I just did the code change just now. Next, but to make the hot reload, make sure you should run your application in the debug mode. Now my application is in the debug mode. Simply I will go to this build. Then I need to recompile the particular class where you did the changes. Okay, I'll just recompile it. The recompilation is going on. Can you see here? Product service application one class reloaded. I mean, IntelliJ IDEA is giving another feature for hot reload to test your feature by just changing in the single line in a code and just recompile it rather than restart the server. This is one of the advantages feature I found in the IntelliJ, and this is really helpful because sometimes when you working on the real-time project, the server will take more than 15 to 20 minutes to start, right? But if you do the hot reload, the changes whatever you have done will be reflected within fraction of second, right? And also you will notify here how many classes are loaded. Okay, in our case we did change in the value mapper class, so one class is reloaded. Now let me drop the frame. Now I will go to the step over to the this particular convert to entity. It will go here. Now I will directly jump to the next breakpoint. Okay, so this is another key you need to understand. So we used F8 to move to the next line. If you keep press F8, it will go each line by line. Okay, and we use F7 to jump into the method directly. Okay, and there is another key which you can use, that is F9, to tell to this idea or to tell to this ID, hey, directly jump me to the next breakpoint. What is my next breakpoint? In line number 20. Currently I am in line number 12. I want to jump into the 20. I don't want to see what things is going on here. I just want to see the output directly. Okay, to jump from one breakpoint to another breakpoint directly, you can use the key called F9. Okay, just use F9. Can you see here? I'm in line number 20 now. And now if you will evaluate this, what is the result you will get? You are getting supplier name as a null. Okay, there is something wrong. No worries. We'll drop from the frame again and we'll start from the begin. But before that, are we getting the supplier name correctly, right? So let me check here. We are getting supplier name correctly and we are setting here. Okay, this is where the mistake we did. This should be from product request DTO, not from the product. Okay, because request DTO contains the input, not product. We have done the changes. Again, I no need to restart my server. Okay, what I can do, since I have only one line change and I want to reflect that particular changes, and that changes has been done in this value mapper class, I can simply recompile it, which will do the hot reload. Okay, so yeah, can you see here one class reloaded? I'll directly drop the frame. I mean, this is nothing. Drop the frame means you want to move to the previous breakpoint to again initiate the debugging. Okay, from this is where I start the debugging, right? So it dropped the frame because unnecessary I no need to hit the endpoint again because I know where is the issue. I just want to drop the frame. Fine. Let me go the step over. I directly came to this particular method. Now I want to jump to the next breakpoint directly. So I will use function F9 or Alt F9 based on the OS what we are using. But the key is F9. Okay, F9. Now if you will evaluate this product, either you can evaluate the entire object. If not, which value you want, you can just check that supplier name we want, right? Just evaluate it. Can you see here the value is getting populated. Now I will directly do the F9 because I want to jump to the next breakpoint. Okay, so just use function F9. Now if you see here, let me minimize this. You can see all the result here. Okay, this is the request detail we gave, and then it convert to the object which is product, and we are getting this as a response. We didn't save the product yet. Now let's see what all value we are getting here. Now I am in the line number 35. If I want to move to the next line which is 36, simply I will use the F8. Okay, so I will use the function F8. I came to the next line. But if you want to use the next breakpoint, let's say I was there in the 35, but I want to move to the 38 directly, I can use the keyword F9. Okay, so here if you observe in the line number 35, again it called the location service dot get location by ID, and we are giving the supplier code. Okay, so to verify that what value it is giving, you can simply evaluate it. Okay, because already this method called happened in the line number 35, and now I move to the line number 36, but still I want to see what is the response when you execute this particular line. So just evaluate it and see the response you got. Okay, these are the response we received. Now again, if you want to directly jump to the next breakpoint, go to the line number 38. So simply use the F9, and again if you want to jump to the 41, which is the next breakpoint, press the F9, or if you want to check the next line, just do F8. Okay, again you are there in the line 39, and here we are doing some method call, right? Value mapper convert to DTO entity to DTO while returning the response. If you want to go inside this method, simply use function F7. Now I am in this method. Okay, so these are three key guys: F7, F8, F9. F7 will directly jump into the method. F8 will help you to the step over. It means it will go to the next line. F9 will directly go to the next breakpoint. Okay, you should know the functionality of these three key. If you know these three key, then you are almost 50% you know about the debugging. Now it's your own skill, how much you understand about the functionality, and where all you are adding the breakpoint to understand the flow of it. Okay, but the basic key features to start debugging, you should know about this F7, F8 and F9. Then you should also know how to evaluate the expression the way I define here. Okay, you can type something like product. I mean, you can type only those field which is there in this class. Okay, so I'm using product request DTO or product dot get price, anything. If you want to evaluate, you can evaluate like this. Okay, so these are the basic thing. And one more add-on for this IntelliJ IDEA user, you can have a option to do the hot reload. Just recompile the class. Okay, but make sure your application should be running on the debug mode to perform this hot reload features. These are all the basic stuff. Okay, now let's move to the next scenario. Let's debug it further. So what is the reason why I'm getting this exception message? Okay, so let's go to the code. Let me clear this console. I'll give the same payload which is causing the issue. I mean, from for what exact payload. I was getting the status has failed and I am getting this error message. I want to reproduce it, right? So I need to give the same input here. Now I will send the request. Request came to the controller class. I want to move to the next debugger line. I will just use F9. Then again I want to go into the create new product method. I just want to step over, so I can directly either use icon this or F8. Now I am in this method. So we verified, we know this is working as expected. So to cross verify, just evaluate it whether this particular line is working or not. This is working, we are getting the result. So just move to the next line directly. F8. Okay. We added the breakpoint here, right? So let me remove this breakpoint because we are not going to debug this method. We found this is working as expected. So I will just step over, or I will directly go to the next breakpoint. Okay. Now we are in the line number 35. So we are giving the supplier code. What is the supplier code we are giving? We can happily evaluate it. We are giving some this value, okay? BFG, some random string alphanumeric value, and using that we want to fetch the location object. So this is the demo application, so I used some static data with map, but you can use some database for that. Okay, so I just want to debug the entire flow. What it is giving me? If I will evaluate, I am getting null. It means there is some issue occurs in this particular method, get location by ID. So I need to jump inside this particular method, right? How I can do that? Just use F7. It will ask, there are multiple methods. Which method you want to use? I want to debug this particular method. So just add the, just step over, just go to the next line. So this is what we hard coded the key and value, right? So we'll just directly go to the return statement and we'll check location map dot get location ID. This is what the location ID we are getting, right? The supplier code we are getting from the request. And with this, do you have anything? Any location object available for this? No, for this location ID, we don't have any location object available. But if you don't want to come inside this method and you want to verify it before, you can also have an option. Let's drop the frame. Now you run it, you are getting the error. You are getting the null. So if you evaluate it, let me evaluate only this piece of code. Let me close it. I will copy it again. I want to evaluate this only. Okay, this DTO value. So just click on evaluate. This is what the value, right? You can simply copy the value. And now if I will run it, not entire code, okay? Instead of that, let me hard code the value, okay? If I will run this, okay, let me remove this. This is giving null. Now what I'll do, I will give one valid input to check whether the location ID method is giving me the location object or not with valid input. Okay. Then if it is giving, then there is no sense to go inside this method and deep dive further because this method is working with the valid input. Where you will get the valid input from the DV. For now, let me consider from here. Okay. So I'll go back. I will evaluate this and I will give the valid input. I don't know what input I got from the request which is not working. I go to the DB and I find the valid location ID or supplier code to check the location object. Yeah, it's working as expected. We are getting the response. It means there is no chance this method will fail. Line number 35, right? Because with the valid input, we are getting the response. So there is something bad data we are giving. That is the reason we are not getting the response. So to verify that whether really it is a bad data, what I can do, I will verify or I will just change the value at runtime directly. This is another key feature of debugging. Something you want to test quickly with the valid data, just change the runtime, just change the information at runtime. How you can do that? Go to the product request DTO. Which value is the culprit here? This supplier code. This guy is giving the error, right? Just hover your mouse to that particular line, then just right click on it. There is option to set the value. Okay, I'll just set the valid value. Now see here, the value got changed. Now if you check the value here, we are getting the valid input. So to quickly verify any of your small method call or the method who is taking the argument, and you want to modify at runtime to check whether real it is working or not, you can quickly set the value at runtime. Now if I evaluate the entire code, I will get the response. I'm getting the response now. Now simply we no need to do anything, since we found the culprit and we found the root cause of it. We are good to go now. Directly jump to the next breakpoint, F9. Okay, now it is throwing the exception because we just reset the value, but that is not refreshed. So I will drop the frame. Okay, again we are here. So now itself I will change the value. Okay, I already copied it, right? Just set the value. Fine. Okay, already the value has changed, but the page is not refreshed. So I forgot to drop the frame. I go with the same flow with the old info. Okay, now let's see. The flow goes here. Now there is no error, no exception. If you'll check this location, you are getting the response. But we are not giving the correct value from the postman. We are giving some wrong value. 4, 6, not 7 is not there. But we set the value at runtime in the location. If you observe, we are added the 7 here, right? That we set at the runtime to check it quickly whether the particular method is working or not. This is another features where you can change the value at runtime. Now if I will execute it, there is no exception. We got the response here. Go back and check here. You're getting the response. See here, the input is incorrect. But to test it, to not come back again postman and set the value, to test it in ID itself, I have set the correct value, which is this at runtime. Okay, this is another feature you need to know while debugging. See, these are the small thing will increase your productivity while debugging. Being a developer, gaining the knowledge on only the tech stack is not enough to survive. If you know the debugging skill, then you are good enough to survive in any IT project and in any industry. Okay, so these are the basic steps and skills. Now let me show you another feature or another debugging skill, how you can debug any third party library. Okay, when I say third party library, see, these are the classes: the product service, belly mapper, product service application, location service. These are my own classes, right? So that is the reason I can able to add a breakpoint and I can able to debug it further. But what if I want to debug any third party class, let's say string utils or any REST template, any third party library what I am using, I want to debug their class, how the design or how the particular method is working. I want to design, I want to debug it. How we can do that? Straightforward approach. Let me show you right away. Okay, so I have created one main method kind of class. So if you observe here, let me zoom this. So in this method, I have the input JavaTechie, some string. JavaTechie is the best platform where you can learn a lot of technology from basic level to advanced level. This is the string I have, and I am using, I want to find the occurrence of each character from the given string. I want to find the occurrence of each character. So if you want to find the occurrence of a, how many times a is present in the entire string, you can pass the sub string as a. Okay, now if I will run this, I will get the output. I will directly run it first. Okay, I want to show you the output. So you can count it. The a count is, let me zoom this, the count of a is 10, right? I want to debug how this string utils dot count occurrence of method is working. How we can do that? Simply add a breakpoint here. Okay, then just run this on the debug mode. Make sure, that is the main thing you should know. You should run your application or server in the debug mode if you want to debug it. See here, as part of the variable section, we are getting the input value which we are giving. Now I want to directly jump into this count occurrence of method. How we can do that? You can use the F7. Now if you observe, we are here. We are in the count occurrence method. Decompile.class file bytecode version is this. You have option to download the source code. Now if you see, it looks bit ugly. This code is not really not understandable. Okay, so if you download the source, at least the variable name should be in the proper way, right? So yeah, it's downloading the Maven source. If you download, the class will be in the proper structure. See here, the source code is downloaded. Now it's in the readable format. Now you can debug it further to understand how this count occurrence of method is working. Okay, they are checking some length, and then they are just doing some while loop, and they are just keep increasing the count. You can debug it further to understand it. This is just a demo example of third-party library debugging, but if you have some complex plugins you are using, or you are using some REST template or any Kafka template and anything, any third-party class, you want to know how they are working, the method they have designed, how internally it works, then you can continue the debugging. Now if I want to go line by line, I can use the F8 to step over. Also you can use this. Okay, I will go each line. Okay, if I don't want to go each line, I can directly resume it. Resume is something to the F9. I mean, it will jump to the next breakpoint. Function F9. You will see the output count equal to 10. Okay, so if you have any third-party library and you want to debug it, you just download the source code of them and just add a breakpoint. Here also you have option to add a breakpoint, which line you want to execute. Okay, see, it does not make any sense to debug any third-party library. By debugging the third-party library, you are not able to modify their code, but at least you will gain some knowledge how the piece of code is designed, what is the purpose of each line, or how it internally works. You will gain that knowledge. That is the only way I am explaining here how you can debug the third-party library. Apart from that, it does not make any sense to debug the third-party library, because I cannot modify anything. If I will type anything here, this is only the read-only file for me. Okay, so this is how you can debug the third-party classes. Now let me take you to the another example. Okay, so far we tried each line, which is the normal code. I mean, if you'll go here for create, we just go with the simple flow, right? There is no method chaining, there is no functional method, or there is no Java 8 code. Okay, so how I can debug the Java 8 stream syntax? That is what one challenges for developer before IntelliJ idea. Okay, or before some plugin introduced by the IntelliJ idea. So let's say I have write already one code here to show you what is that method. Yeah, get products by types. We have the list of product object by let me show you in the DB directly. Okay, we added this many times, it's fine. So we have different product type, right? For electronics we have multiple product, for kitchen and home multiple product, for fashion we have multiple product. We have different kind of product by type. So I want to group them. Actually, this is what the Java 8 code we have written here. I just want to group the list of product by type. So let me show you the output, how it will come in the response. Then I will debug and I will show you how you can debug the Java 8 stream code as well. So I'll just go to the Postman. What is the URL? Slash products, right? Let me check the URL. This is the service, right? Go to the controller class. Types. So I'll go to the Chrome directly. Localhost 9191 slash products slash types. Now if you'll run it, okay, I need to mute it. I mean, I enable the debugging, so it is just going to the method call. I will remove it. Okay. Now I just want to see the response. Can you see here the response? For kitchen and home, we have these many objects, 2 objects. For fashion, we have 5 items. For electronics, we have 3 items. Okay, so I'm just grouping the list of product object by their type. Now, this entire code we are written using the Java 8. Okay, if you go and check in the service, we have written the entire code using Java 8. Now, how I can debug it? Whether if there is any exception occurs, it's really difficult to debug this piece of code, right? So just add a breakpoint. And in IntelliJ, see, IntelliJ is really a good tool for a developer. I would strongly suggest everyone to use the IntelliJ idea, because all the plugins which will increase your productivity is available, max of them for the IntelliJ, not for the Eclipse. I am not saying you don't use the Eclipse. It's your comfortness what you want to use. But I found this IntelliJ will be more helpful for developer. Okay, so there is a plugin. Go to the IntelliJ preference. If you will check the plugins, already I installed it. That is something stream debugger or something like that. Yeah, Java stream debugger. Even I have uploaded a dedicated video for this particular plugin, Java stream debugger. I'll share the link in video description. So if you want to know about this plugin more, you can check out that tutorial. So for now, it's I already added it. Okay, so just close, and I just want to enable the debugging. Now I want to verify this particular endpoint. Okay, so I'll go to the browser. Anything is fine. You can hit from the postman or browser. Okay, I didn't. Is it in a mute? No, right? One second. Let me stop it and I will start in the debug mode again. So it started. Now let me minimize this. I will hit the endpoint. Can you see here? The request came here. Okay, I got it. Why before it didn't came? Because of the cacheable, right? It already fetched, so rather than hit the div, it checked from the cache and return the value. So it's fine. I have the requirement to implement cache for this, but it's fine. I don't want to go in depth about that. But the request came to this particular um, Java 8 stream code. Okay, it will fetch all the product, and then if you'll check dot stream, and it is doing the, like, it will get the entity and it will convert to the DTO. These were the method reference, and again it will check the null of product type, and it is just doing the grouping by. So each and every step, map it, filter it, then collect it, and then group it by, I can see in this icon. If you add the Java 8 stream debugger plugin, you can trace the current stream chain. Can you see here? I have some different icon here. Just click on that. What all steps you are performing is available here. You are doing map, then you are doing filter, then you are collecting and grouping by them. So you will see the result here. Can you see here? It fetched all the product from the DB as a stream, and then what it mapped here? Convert this entity to DTO. Can you see here? Now the output is this. Now it will filter. Is anything is null? No null. Then it will simply group by. See, this group by result is here. Key is this, value are these many, value are these. You can also see the corresponding ID and their response. Okay, you can see this mark. So this is very simple. If you have 10 or 100 of chaining in the call, let's say map, filter, collect, then again flat map, and lot of steps if you are performing here, then it's not difficult to debug. You can happily check this, it will evaluate, and each step whatever you are defined will get the result here. Okay, so this is how this is really help you if you are using Java 8 stream in your code to debug it, because sometimes it's really tough to debug the functional or lambda expression, right? So this particular tool will help you to debug the lambda as well. Okay, so that's it about the debugging session. I hope you found something new here and this knowledge will help you in your work. And if you have any question, please add in a comment section. That's all about this particular video, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Meet you soon with a new concept.